Welcome to the Golf Improvement Podcast, episode 199.
Welcome to the podcast for golf lovers and enthusiasts who are looking to take their games to new heights. Dedicated to custom club fitting, short game improvement, and effective practice to improve your golf game. This is the Golf Improvement Podcast with your host, Tony Wright.
Hello, this is Tony Wright from Game Improvement Golf in Oak Ridge, Tennessee with the Golf Improvement Podcast, dedicated to sharing useful information on professional club fitting, short game improvement, and effective practice techniques. Changing golfers' lives, one golfer at a time. Are you a recreational golfer? And would you prefer to feel good after your good shots, feel great after your great shots, and feel calm after poor shots or bad breaks? I can't think of a golfer I normally play with who would not want to embrace these feelings when they play golf. So today you have the opportunity to learn some concepts that can help you enjoy your golf more, no matter what your score is. Kent Osborne, a pioneer in the executive coaching field and an excellent golfer, wrote a wonderful ebook titled The Golfer Who Developed a Scratch Attitude. Enjoy the many insights he shares in this interview to help you to have the potential to embrace a scratch attitude when you play golf.
Tony Wright and Game Improvement Golf, changing golfers' lives, one golfer at a time.
Hello, this is Tony Wright with episode 199 of the Golf Improvement Podcast. It's a treat today to interview Kent Osborne, who's the author of The Golfer Who Developed a Scratch Attitude. Kent was a pioneer in the executive coaching field, and he himself is a scratch golfer and actually a club champion. But his book was written for the recreational golfer. And it's so funny, I remember a couple weeks ago, I'm on the course with one of my friends, and wow, almost never a positive thing would be said, you know? And there's so much to be gained from what's in your book. On your webpage, you note that our best golf requires an artful combination of physical, mental, and emotional skills, and very few of us ever think about the emotional side of golf. It's, pick your target, grind, and all those kind of things. For a lot of us, that's not really what's going to help us play our best. So you're going to share a lot of things from your book and from your knowledge that I think are going to help a lot of golfers. So thanks for talking with me today, Kent.
Yeah, my pleasure, Tony. Looking forward to it.
Yeah. Well, share a bit of your personal story, your career in the executive coaching field. I think you also help professional hockey players, but then what drew you to playing golf?
Okay, well, I started as a mental health practitioner or psychotherapist, if you want to call it that. I spent a number of years doing that, tried to become as skilled as I possibly could at having conversations with people and helping them change. And I think I became good enough at it that I became a clinical director at a mental health center. And then because I was a sports guy as a youngster and played a lot of hockey at a fairly high level, I stayed connected with hockey and eventually got an opportunity to work in the National Hockey League with the Detroit Red Wings as their mental skills guy. And then I kind of transitioned from there to doing leadership development and executive coaching, and had a really good run at that. I still do some work through the Stockholm School of Economics in their executive development department, but mostly I'm retired now, and started playing golf when I was 50 because I was a recreational softball player and really enjoying that, and had a really nasty shoulder injury and couldn't throw the ball anymore. So I was looking for something to do, and and got an opportunity to go out and play golf, and I was hooked pretty much immediately. So
and you actually live fairly close to a golf course where you can sneak out, I think, and hit a lot of little short game shots and things like that, even if you don't play, right? If I remember.
It's becoming harder and harder because the golf course is getting busier and busier. But yes, I'm 8 minutes away from a course that I belong to, and it's been just a real privilege to be able to play there.
Well, what led you to write the Scratch Attitude book, and how much of it is based on things that have helped you become, a pretty successful? It's hard in some ways to call somebody who's a scratch golfer a recreational golfer, right? But it's possible. You can be really good but still be recreational rather than grinding and nerve-wracking and all those kind of things when you play. But you're a good golfer, but yet the principles of your book, I think, are important to that, right?
Yeah. I wrote the book because of my background. Obviously, I did a lot of work with with this understanding that emotional intelligence was really critical to leadership, and so I came to the game with that understanding. But what really opened my eyes was the guys that I was playing softball with. We had a terrible softball. Arguably, we were the worst softball team in North America. and we would get together after the game, have a beer around this guy's truck, and we gave out a trophy after every game. It was an artificial leg with a baseball cleat on it for the guy who made the worst error or kicked the ball around the worst. And there was no problem to give that trophy out every week. So, we tried but we had fun, and we knew that we were light years away from Yankee Stadium. And you get out in the golf course with the same guys, and they'd be frustrated. They'd be calling themselves idiots for missing putts. They'd be, it was clear that it was two different guys on the, from who they were on the baseball diamond to who they were in the golf course. Whatever it was about this golf, there was something that was bringing out the worst in them. So I decided, given my background, that I would take a different approach. And to be truthful, I can fall into the same pitfalls as anybody else. The game is it's the world's hardest game. It can be difficult if you don't. At least I think it can be emotionally draining and difficult, and full of frustration and disappointment if you don't approach it in a way that's conducive to enjoyment. And so what I did is I designed a way for myself to approach the game, and it was useful. I can't look. I play a lot and I practice a lot, so I can't just say that. If you have a good attitude, you're going to automatically get the scratch. But having said that, I think any golfer knows that if you are relaxed, if you're able to be accepting of your bad shots, and if you're able to enjoy your good shots, if you're able to be in that space, well, chances are you're going to play well. So I think it's had a positive impact on my game, and writing the book was, as I said, I'm retired or 98% retired, and I like to think about these ideas, and I just thought, I'll write a book. And a friend of mine suggested that I get on Twitter, and I did, and I think it's been a good thing. I think it's genuinely helped a few guys. So
yeah. I have to tell you, when I laughed, I wasn't laughing at your saying you were the worst, because I am almost certain that if the team I was on played your team, it would be kind of interesting. We had a team that was called the High Risks, okay? And I think I was somewhere in the range of, I can't remember how old I was, early 30s, mid 30s. And one of the characteristics of that team is almost everybody got hurt sometime during the year, okay?
Fair enough.
But we only won one game, okay? But we won our next to the last game, and it was the most exciting one of the most fun things that I ever can remember happening, because I mean we didn't have those expectations, and again, some of the guys in that team were guys I golf with, but it was so much fun. We had a great time when we did that, and we had beer afterwards and all that kind of stuff,
Well,
and it was good.
That's to me is the ideal on the golf course. I want to have fun. I want to play well. But my having fun is not dependent on my playing well.
Yeah.
Because if it is, then I'm going to be an unhappy camper, because golf's a very difficult game.
Yeah. Well, I think if not the major premise in the book, but one of the big ones is that if a golfer can't think positive a golfer can't think positive when they feel negative. Talk about the importance of that concept and give a little overview of the content of the book.
Sure. Well, golf psychology will tell you, mainstream golf psychology will tell you, and if you watch any of the PGA Tour, anything on TV, you're constantly getting the message that golf is a physical and mental game. And what happens then is guys tend to see emotions as a subset of the mental game. And my perspective is that golf is physical, mental, and emotional. The emotional dimension of the game is connected to, but it's a bit distinct from the mental game. And your pre-shot routine, where it can help you focus, it's not going to change your emotional state. So if you're in a situation when you're feeling anxious or you're feeling frustrated, your pre-shot routine is not going to change that. So what I believe is that in order to create the emotional base that's going to help you enjoy the game the most and play your best golf, you need to do some rituals off the golf course. Now, when I say rituals, I don't mean that, you're going to be lighting candles and sitting cross-legged or
yeah.
But an emotional state is something that you can cultivate. You just can't go to the golf course and hope that you're going to be calm and focused, or hope that you're going to be confident, or hope that you're going to be able to enjoy yourself. So the primary ritual, from my point of view, that we recreational golfers should use is a journal to capture our best moments. Because the way the mind works, the mind is oriented towards identifying problems. It helped us evolve. If you think about it, like a million years ago at the water hole, if you didn't notice that the sound wasn't really right, or these reeds weren't really moving the way they should, if you didn't notice that potential problem, you exited the gene pool because some animal ate you.
Yeah. So
we evolved to be excellent at identifying problems. And so what's natural for a golfer to step off the golf course at the end of his round and replay his worst moments. That seems to be the default mode for most of us. And a story that will illustrate that is, I remember playing there was a bunch of us who played golf at this very, very difficult golf course. And this guy shot 71, which, he's a good player, but that was his lowest round of the year to date. And we were sitting around afterwards having a beer, and one of the guys said, "Hey man, great round today." And he said, his response immediately was, "Yeah, but if I hadn't had that goddamn double on number 14,
yeah.
So it's like, so my perspective is, okay, that's going to be my natural default mode. I want to shift that. I want to get into a mode where my mind is looking for or hunting or identified with my best moments. And I find that the journal enables me to do that. So after every round that I play, I will sit down for a few minutes in the evening, and I will write down my best shots. Best drive, best approach shot, best whatever. And it's usually somewhere between 4 and 7 entries. Now, those are my best shots for me. Those are great shots for me. They're not great shots for Rory McIlroy, obviously, but there's something that I want to identify as, that was a really excellent moment. And what's important is I don't just write it down, I relive it.
Yeah, you go back and think about what you're feeling and
exactly.
experiencing when you did it. Yeah.
I close my eyes and I go back and I try to remember as best I can that moment. Now, what that does on a subconscious level is that the subconscious mind is influenced by what you experience, but it's also influenced by what you imagine. So, and the subconscious can't tell the difference between what you vividly imagine and what's actually real. I mean, it can have an absolute impact on your body and your neurology. And if you've ever had a sexual fantasy, you know that that's true. Because you can lie in your bed and close your eyes and imagine the best sex you've ever had. And within seconds, you're going to have a physical reaction to that. Even though you consciously know, I'm on the bed and I'm not lying here with, Marilyn Monroe or whatever. But your body has that reaction. So when you close your eyes and you vividly reimagine that shot that you hit, that has a physiological and neurological effect on you. And that will, from my perspective, that will strengthen your ability to make those connections to feeling positive. And it will, diminish your tendency to dwell on the negatives. Because what I want what I'm paying for on the golf course, whether you're a scratch golfer or you're a 25 handicap, I'm a pay-to-play golfer. If I don't pay, I don't get on the golf course, period. So what I want to do is I'm paying for these moments of enjoyment. That's the heart and soul of it. Yes, I really enjoy the periphery of the golf. I like being with my buddies. I like being outside. All that stuff is nice. But what I'm paying for is to be in the shot bubble and enjoy myself every now and then when I happen to hit a good one.
Yeah.
And that's not easy to do, because what most recreational players will do is they will flatline if they hit a good shot. And they will have a strong emotional reaction to a bad one. You watch your buddies. You watch somebody hit. He stripes one down the middle on the first tee. Absolutely pumps it. Great drive. And the boys that he's with say, "Hey, great drive, buddy." What's the response? 99 times out of 100, it's this: "Thanks." Very flat, very monotone. Thanks. But if he's on that same first tee and he pumps one OB, you look at the emotional response to that.
Yeah,
strong.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And so what we're doing unwittingly is we're training our brains, because the subconscious mind doesn't, and from my perspective, subconscious mind doesn't care about us, doesn't care about me. My subconscious doesn't care about me, and your subconscious doesn't care about you. It just gives us more of what we're giving it.
Yeah.
So if you want to, you can say to yourself, "Oh, I want to have a good day today. Let's have a great round." But if you've been habitually training your subconscious mind to respond to negatives and let positives go, what are you going to get on the golf course today? You're going to get more of that.
Now, you talk in the book about what you call sort of the two PPZs, right? There's a capital PPZ, all capitals PPZ, and then there's the capital small PZ, right?
Yeah.
And there's a little bit about what you're mentioning already, but go into a little bit about what you mean when you're talking about those two things.
Well, I talk about the peak performance zone and the peak play zone. And the peak performance zone is where Rory McIlroy needs to go when he tees it up, or any professional golfer on the PGA Tour. Because the reality is that their sponsors and their caddies and their families and they themselves, they're in this thing to win money. Period. End of story. It doesn't matter how happy Ricky Fowler is at the end of the day. Ricky Fowler next year can say, oh, you know what? I'm having more fun than I ever had on the golf course. But if he misses every cut, his sponsors aren't going to be happy with that. His caddy's not going to be happy with that. No one's going to be happy with that. Those guys are there to perform. Period. End of story. I'm there to play. I'm there to experience play. I'm there to enjoy myself. And the quality of my round is a secondary factor. Because the truth of the matter is, no matter what I shoot, I still have to pay tomorrow.
Right.
I mean, that's just the way it is. So what is it about this peak? If you read golf psychology or listen to golf psychology, basically every book that you're going to read, every book is what I would call top down. It's basically, hey, you know what? I work with these tour pros, and this is what we've done. This is what I've done to help this guy win a major and help this gal get to number one in the world. And you know what, Mr. or Ms. recreational player, if you do this, you'll be able to perform better. But see, I'm not on the golf course to perform.
Yeah.
I'm on the golf course to experience play. I want to be free. I want to be focused. I want to be like I'm throwing a frisbee to a dog on a beach.
That's right.
You know, or if I want to be like I'm playing catch with my grandson or with one of my boys. You know, I'm trying to throw the ball to where I want to throw it. I'm immersed in it. I'm focused on it, and I'm enjoying it. But if I happen to throw one a little bit offline, I'm not going to get bent into shape. And the more I can get in, paradoxically, the more I can get into that space, the better I play. But as soon as for me as a recreational player, like I used to work with professional athletes, and I used to work with top executives. And what both the athletes and the executives, they had world-class talent in their domain. I don't have world-class talent as a golfer, and I never will. So layering this expectation of performance on me, for me and for many of the guys that I see, is a ticket to frustrationville. And it's something that I see guys and they never get off of it.
Yeah.
So, you know, I'm not trying to suggest in any way that what I talk about or what I write about is the way, the truth, and the light for everybody. I'm just saying that for me as a recreational golfer, it's really worked. For a lot of guys that I've talked to or a lot of guys that have read the book, it's worked too. And if you are a golfer who loves the game, but your skills are diminished, and sometimes your best rounds are derailed by frustration or anxiety, then you might want to think about a different route. You might want to say to yourself, you know what? The way that these elite amateurs and pros are approaching the game might not be the best way for me to approach it.
I also think that there's a class of golfers that kind of get stuck in the middle. Do you know what I mean? For example, I'm connected with, a junior college, right?
Right.
And these guys are not going to be, for the most part, I don't think there's anybody I've seen yet that's going to be at a pro level. But they're all seeing that they have to sort of act like they're at a pro level.
Yeah.
And they can grasp some of the things that are in your book to use, but they still, need to be at a little bit different level than a recreational golfer, right?
Well, yes, I get that. And from my perspective there, I'd be looking at grounding them in what I call the scratch attitude thing first and foremost. There's nothing wrong with trying to sharpen your mental game. I mean, I think Scott Fawcett has done a wonderful job with his decade program. I think John Sherman's another guy with he just wrote a book, Four Foundations of Golf. That's outstanding. I mean, there's lots of good stuff that you can get into on the mental side of the game. And for most people, even those middle of the road guys, the more if you think about the zone, if someone was to say to you, okay, what's happening for you when you're playing your best golf? Well, typically guys will say, well, you know what? Everything just felt easy. I felt really free. And I wasn't really thinking about anything, actually. I was just kind of really just immersed in the moment. And it was very enjoyable. Well, that's going to help you. And that's what I'm talking about in this book. It's how to understand it, how to wrap your head around this idea that from my perspective, the culture of golf does more harm than good to the recreational player, and how to have some tools that will enable you to be out on the golf course with more gratitude and with more of a sense of freedom and ease and comfort, and have more fun. And you'd think that would be the norm, and there are some guys who can do it, but in my experience, the majority of golfers are not. They have more fun with the periphery of the game than they do with the actual game itself. The actual game pisses them off. Yeah. So I'm far enough down the rabbit hole that I wanted to. It's important to me to get the maximum value from this thing that I spend a lot of time and money on.
Yeah. Now, you note in the book, one of the best definitions, if not the best definition of confidence that I ever have read. And you said, and it just hit me. Confidence is an emotional state that increases or decreases depending on how you manage your memories.
Yes.
And I never thought of it as an emotional state before, I guess.
Yeah, well, and that's where you get into the limitation of a pre-shot routine, because guys will think, if I use my pre-shot routine properly, if I choose the right target and I get focused on that target in the right way and I visualize the shot that I want and all of that stuff, and I have the right swing thought, then I will feel confident. That's not. I think that's just not accurate. Focusing is really good, and being able to choose the right target is really good. But the feeling of confidence is something other. The feeling of confidence comes from your memories. If you think about it, let's say you and I went out and we played a round of golf together. And let's say on the front nine, you putted like Jack Nicklaus in his prime. I mean, you just couldn't miss. You dropped in a couple of 25-footers. Your 5-6-footers were routine. You had a 60-70-footer, and you rolled it up to gimme. I mean, you were just absolutely putting the lights out. You get to the 10th hole, and you have a 4-foot putt for par. How are you going to feel standing over that putt?
Yeah, pretty darn good, right?
Pretty darn good. Piece of cake. The hole's going to look like a bucket to you. Now, let's say somehow that we played that same round of golf, but only this time you putted horribly. You missed a couple of 3-footers. You missed a couple of 8-foot chances. You had 2 or 3 3-putts because when you had a 40 or 50-footer, you gunned it by the hole. Now we get to that same 10th hole and you've got that same 4-footer. How are you going to feel over it?
Exactly the opposite, right?
Exactly the opposite. And it's all because of the way you have processed your recent memories. So one of the additional benefits of having a journal and writing down your best shots is that it's like you're whispering to your subconscious mind, hey, you can make this shot. You can hit really good shots. And if you do that over a course of a few weeks and a few months, you are going to create a Rolodex in your subconscious mind of really great moments, and those are going to be more front and center than your bad moments. See, when I was working in the National Hockey League, one of the things I noticed, like if someone said to me, "Okay, Kent, what is the primary psychological difference between a player who plays 10 years in the minor leagues, comes up for a cup of coffee here or there, but fundamentally plays 10 years in the minor leagues, and a guy who's a third or fourth line NHL player, and he carves out a 10-year career in the show? What's the primary mental difference?" And I can tell you that the difference is the guy who's in the minor leagues, when he comes up to the big time and he gets out on the ice and he makes an error, he blows that up in his mind and he replays it time after time after time after time. And the guy who's managed to carve out a 10-year NHL career doesn't dwell on his mistakes. He's able to let them go.
Yeah.
So if you as a golfer have put some time and effort into making sure that you identify your best moments, then you will stand up on that tee 3-4 months later and you'll have more confidence than you would have had otherwise. Because as I said earlier, the brain's natural tendency is to default to problems. And what most guys will do is they'll hit an outstanding drive on the first hole of their golf course, but then they'll hit a mediocre drive, and then they'll hit a horrible drive, and then they'll have a tournament the next weekend. And what's going to be in the back of what's going to be up front in their subconscious? The horrible drive.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, for me as a recreational player, that horrible shot's always in play. I mean, I can hit it anywhere. But what I'd like to have in the back of my mind is that sense that, yeah, I can hit this where I want to hit it. Now,
you talked a little bit about rituals already, and I don't think we need to talk anymore about that. I think they're important, and the thing of journaling. And I've been working at that. It's not going to be an overnight process to use those rituals and see improvement. But you also talk in the book about paying attention to what. Go ahead for a second. Then.
I'll stop you there, Tony. See, right there, see improvement. A lot of guys will say something like that to me, and I would say, well, what do you mean by improvement? Yeah. Do you mean improvement in terms of your ability to enjoy your best moments? Or do you mean improvement?
That's great.
Or do you mean improvement in terms of that, I'm going to go from a 7 to a 2 handicap?
Yeah, lots of people want the improvement to be the 7 to the 2 handicap rather than just the enjoyment of the game.
I would love to take 2 or 3 strokes off my handicap. Who wouldn't?
Yeah.
Who wouldn't? I'm just saying I want to put the cart before the horse. The cart is increasing my ability to be on the golf course neutral to positive.
Yeah.
Neutral if I hit a bad shot, positive if I hit a really good one, as opposed to neutral to negative. Anyway, I interrupted you. You're asking me a question.
No, and that's good, and I'm glad you did. You talk a lot about trying to understand what your why is in terms of playing golf, but also how to use that as something you can fall back on when you get frustrated. Right?
Well, yeah, great question. And I mean, if you took if you went to the 19th hole at your club and you sat down with 10 or 12 of the most miserable golfers in your golf course, and when I say miserable, I don't care what their handicaps are. I mean that they're constantly complaining, and you play around with them, and it's excuses, and they're calling themselves idiots when they miss a putt. The 10 worst guys you could think of, and you said to them, "Why do you play golf?" Basically, every one of them would say, "For fun. I play for fun." Oh,
right.
So understanding why you play is not as important as being emotionally connected with why you play. See, that's why I you make a distinction again, the mental game and the emotional game. The mental game would suggest, oh, I know why I play. Well, I play because, I enjoy being outdoors. I enjoy being with my buddies. I want to play well, blah, blah, blah. On the emotional side, asking yourself that question and making the emotional connection with it. See, I play because I love how it feels when I make great contact. I love that feeling. I love when I look up and I see my ball arcing through the sky towards the target. I absolutely love that. There's other things that I love too, but that's the heart of it. So when I make that connection, when I sit back, close my eyes, and connect with that feeling, not with that understanding, when I connect with that feeling, that allows me to then be on the golf course. And if I'm on a bogey run and I start to feel a little ripple of frustration, I can say to myself, okay, Kent, why are you here? And the answer is an emotional answer. Well, I'm here for that experience. Well, let's see if you can experience that on your next shot.
Yeah.
To me,
give yourself the opportunity to experience that in your next shot.
That's a game changer. That's an absolute game changer because most guys, because one of the things I was going to talk to you about is, in this whole ritual idea, I mean, there's a number of ones that I'm in the process of writing another book, and there's a number of things I like to write about. But one of the things is I believe that it's wise for guys like you and I to play by two sets of rules. Now, the obviously we have the rules of golf that we want to play by, but we all have a set of subconscious rules that we function by on a golf course. And I want to make my rules as empowering as possible. Now, from what I've seen, it would seem to me that the majority of golfers play as if they've got these two rules. One, I should make every shot I could make.
Yeah.
And two, I need to shoot at or below my handicap in order to have a good day. Now, if those are my rules, subconsciously, I'm not saying that anybody sits down and writes this out before he goes and plays, but if those are my subconscious rules, I should make every shot I could make, and I need to play out or below my handicap to have a really good day, you're going to be miserable. Because the reality is, every round that I play, and I'm a reasonably decent recreational player, but every round that I play comprises great shots, good shots, okay shots, and bad shots. I can't think of a round I ever played where I didn't hit a bad one.
And if you remember too, in the John Sherman book, he talks about this sort of group of three, right? That there's three, like maybe drives or approach shots or putts, and almost every round you'd be good in two of them, but one of them you're not.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a great insight.
Yeah,
that's a great insight. So what I want to do is, I want to have my rules to be different than that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I want my rule to be, I'm going to be fully committed to every shot I make, period. I want my rule to be, I'm going to play to my bell curve today.
Right.
And see, the thing is, for me, guys don't, when you think it through, you say, okay, well, I'd like to improve as a golfer. Well, what does that mean? It means that I'd like to shift my bell curve 2 or 3 or 4 strokes left as opposed to where I am now. But you can never get rid of the bell curve. I've got a bell curve. Rory McIlroy has a bell curve. You've got a bell curve. Everybody does. It's not going to go away. But guys get in the back of their minds this to me, insane idea that somehow I'm going to get to the point where if I'm a +2, if I'm a 2 handicap, and I'm going to be shooting 75, 76, worst case scenario. Well, if you're a 2 handicap, 20% of your rounds are going to be 74 or better. And the majority of your rounds are going to be in that 76 to 78, 79 range. And you know what? 20% of your rounds are going to be 81, 82 or worse. That's just the reality of the handicap system.
And boy, that's hard to accept for most people, but it's exactly true. Who was it? The guy the stats guy on Twitter, right? You know who it is.
Yeah.
He talked about that a number of times. Lou Stagner, right?
He's a great follow if you're on Twitter.
Yeah.
But yeah, so, but again, it's making an emotional connection with that. It's not good enough to go, oh yeah, I understand it. Oh, because that's like guys saying, yeah, I understand. I'm out there for fun. And then, by the third hole, they're yelling, you goddamn idiot, keep your head down. So,
and that's in the book too.
Yeah.
the one guy in it. Well, that's great. We covered a lot of things already that are in the book. What's the one or two things kind of here at the end that we haven't talked about that you think you want to talk about in terms of golfers and understanding, the concepts and the things that are in your book and the things that you believe will help people the most?
Well, I don't know if there's anything that I would want to add, but I think re-emphasize a couple of points. That first of all, that golf is a physical, mental, and emotional game, and that if you want to cultivate an emotional state that's aligned with having fun and playing well, and you need to do that off the golf course. And one of the best ways that you can do that is to make a commitment to doing a journal, and keep a journal where you write down your best shots every time you go practice or play. You write down your 3 to 7 best moments and relive them. And if you can do that, you'll train your brain to be a good moment hunter. And then what will start to happen spontaneously, as opposed to it being a part of a routine or you're trying to remember that what you're supposed to do, what's going to start to happen spontaneously is you hit a bad shot and you'll stay neutral. You hit a good shot and you'll feel good. And you'll hit a great shot and you'll feel great. And that, to me, that's the ticket. That's what we want. That's the name of that's why I'm paying to be there.
Be a good moment hunter. That was a real, rather than being the hunter of the negative things, right? I really thought that phrase was kind of interesting.
Oh, cool. That's good.
Yeah. Well, real good, Kent. Well, first of all, looking forward to the next book. That'll be fun.
Me too.
How long from now do you think it'll be before that's hitting the world?
Well, I'm not playing golf right now because it's winter here in Ontario. So hopefully I'm able to get on it and get it out by January, February this year.
Pretty neat. Neat. Well, I put a link. I'll put a link in the show notes to your website. I know you do personal coaching too, if anybody's interested. But your ebook is, a good solid read. You don't have to spend hours and hours to read it. I think I told you before, I think I read it an hour or two and I read it again just because it seemed valuable and it helped me to pick up a couple of other points. I had a journal anyhow, and it's sort of oriented toward those things. And it's fun to write in the journal. It's fun to go back and think about the good things, irregardless of anything else.
The other thing I do is in the journal is every time I write the word birdie, I highlight it with a yellow highlighter.
Oh.
And I'll flip back through my book and I'll just look at look at the birdies, and some rounds there's none, and some rounds there's two or three, but that's another thing. I'm constantly just trying to reinforce in my mind that, hey, I can have fun at this game and I can make good shots.
That's the game that I think most of us really think we want to play, right?
Fair enough.
The Golf Improvement Podcast is sponsored by Tony Wright and Game Improvement Golf. Tony creates exceptional golf clubs. You shoot lower scores.
Kent, thanks for writing this gem of an ebook and sharing much of the information that's included in it. I think Kent's suggestions for golfers to create a journal where they record some of their best shots after they play golf is well worth the effort. And why not compliment yourself on the golf course when you hit a great shot? I put a link in the show notes to Kent's Scratch Attitude website, where you can purchase his ebook and where, if you're interested, you can sign up to do a one-on-one coaching session with Kent. My shout-out today is to my good friend Ray Perry, a small business marketing expert. Ray started helping me with my business marketing right after I retired from my first life at the Oak Ridge National Laboratory, and he's helping me now to find an excellent website developer for my new website that will be in the works soon. If you're looking for marketing support and guidance, check out his MarketBlazer website in the show notes. I love getting to bring experts like Kent Osborne on my podcast to share things I don't expect many of you will be exposed to in your golf improvement efforts. A reminder that there's a support Game Improvement Golf link in the show notes for this podcast, and if you can provide some support, that will be greatly appreciated. Thanks. Well, that's it for today. Yes, episode 200 will be live in 2 to 3 weeks. It'll be a little different, and I'll be talking with some of my favorite professional club fitting friends, Tom Wishon, Roy Nix, Keith Chatham, and Burt Reich. Until then, take care, God bless Ukraine, and God bless America.
Game Improvement Golf, your source of information and inspiration to become an exceptional golfer now. www.gameimprovementgolf.com